Right now, there are over 8 billion people on this planet. That number feels permanent, solid, unshakable. But rewind the clock 70,000 years, and the entire human race almost fit inside a single valley. Not a city, not a country, a valley. Some scientists believe humanity dropped to as few as 10,000 breeding individuals. Others think the number was even smaller. Small enough that a single bad winter could have ended everything. You are here because a tiny, fragile population of your ancestors barely made it through. And the thing that almost erased them wasn't a war, it wasn't a predator, it was a mountain that made a mistake it didn't know it was making. Here is what happened. On the island of Sumatra, in what is now Indonesia, there sat a volcano. Not an ordinary one, a supervolcano, the kind that only erupts once every few 100,000 years. Around 74,000 years ago, it did. The eruption at Toba was one of the largest volcanic events in the last 2 million years. It didn't just destroy the surrounding landscape, it punched ash and sulfur dioxide so high into the atmosphere that the particles wrapped around the entire globe. Sunlight dimmed, temperatures dropped. Some researchers estimate a volcanic winter that lasted years, maybe longer. Plants struggled, animals starved. And humans, who depended entirely on both, were pushed to the edge of extinction. This idea has a name. Scientists call it the Toba catastrophe theory. The geneticist Lynn Jorde and her collaborators studied human DNA diversity across populations and found something strange. Compared to other great apes, humans show remarkably little genetic variation. Chimpanzees living in a single forest can have more genetic diversity than every human on Earth combined. That's a strange fact for a species that now covers every continent. The explanation many scientists point to is called a population bottleneck. Imagine your entire species squeezed through the narrow neck of a bottle. Only a small number make it to the other side. Everyone alive today descends from that surviving handful. Your DNA still carries the signature of that near miss. Anthropologist Stanley Ambrose proposed that the Toba eruption caused exactly this kind of bottleneck. He argued that the volcanic winter created a chain reaction. Food sources collapsed. Small, isolated bands of humans, already spread thin across Africa and Asia, were cut off from each other. Some groups likely died out completely. The ones who survived were forced into whatever they could find. Coastlines, caves, anywhere with enough resources to hold on for one more season, and then another.
Here's where it gets strange. You would expect a disaster this severe to leave humanity permanently weakened. Instead, something unexpected happened. When populations shrink this dramatically and then slowly recover, genetic traits can spread through the group faster than they normally would. Behaviors and adaptations that helped small bands survive scarcity could have taken hold across the entire species, because there were so few humans left to carry any other version forward. Some researchers argue this is where cooperation became non-negotiable, not a nice bonus, a survival requirement. Small groups facing constant, unpredictable environmental threats don't succeed by being independent. They succeed by sharing food when they have surplus, because next season someone will need to share with them. Anthropologist Robert Boyd has spent decades studying how cooperation evolves in exactly these kinds of pressured conditions. His research suggests that extreme, unpredictable environments select for social bonds, not against them. The people who survived weren't necessarily the strongest individuals. They were the ones embedded in networks that would carry them through the worst years. Think about that for a moment. Your instinct to check on a friend who's gone quiet. Your discomfort with eating a good meal while someone nearby has nothing. Your tendency to remember, specifically, who helped you when things were hard. These aren't just modern courtesies, they may be inherited machinery, built under conditions where isolation meant death, and connection meant a slightly better chance at seeing spring. There's another layer to this story, and it's easy to miss. A bottleneck this severe doesn't just reduce numbers, it reduces the range of what a species can become. When only a small number of individuals survive to reproduce, humanity's future gets narrowed down to whatever traits, tendencies, and instincts happen to exist in that surviving group. You inherited a version of humanity that made it through a specific set of ancient winters. Not every possible version of what a human could have been, just this one.
That means the anxiety you feel scanning a crowded room for danger, the comfort of a fire on a cold night, even the particular way you crave salt, fat, and sugar. These preferences trace back to bodies that were shaped by scarcity, tested in isolation, and refined by whichever survivors happened to pass their traits forward. Not every scientist agrees on how close to extinction humanity actually came. Some later genetic studies suggest the bottleneck may have been less extreme, or that other factors contributed alongside Toba. The debate continues. But the broader pattern holds. At some point in the deep past, the human population narrowed dramatically, and everyone alive today is the result of.
Here's the part that should sit with you the longest. None of the survivors from that time knew they were living through a bottleneck. There was no headline, no warning system, no data showing global temperatures dropping. There was only a colder sky, a harder season, and a decision made without knowing its full weight to share food with the person next to you instead of hoarding it for yourself. That decision, repeated by enough people, in enough small groups, across enough hard years, is why you exist. You carry it without noticing, in the relief of a shared meal, in the instinct to check on someone who's struggling, in the quiet, persistent belief that you are better off not facing hard winters alone. Right now, there are over 8 billion people on this planet. That number only exists because once there were almost none left.